Earlier this week, the Puri Rath Yatra was finally underway after the nod from the Supreme Court. There was a lot of drama before the Yatra could actually go ahead. Firstly, the state government was really unsure if they could actually allow a proceeding like that given the outbreak of the coronavirus we are within. Given such kind of events turn out to be a super spreader events, there was a lot of backlash from the state government. There was apprehension on the part of the state government. There were a lot of flip and flops from the state government. Eventually, even the Supreme Court had a very dramatic perception towards the entire event. They said Lord Jagannath would never forgive them if they allowed for the Rath Yatra to go ahead. There was another hearing of the Supreme Court subsequently, and the permission was given. However, a certain section of the media, a certain section of the influencers and analysts you see in the media, they were quite against the Rath Yatra. They were quick to draw the comparison with the Tablighi Jamaat congregation in late March. This was in Delhi, the Tablighi Jamaat congregation, the gathering of more than 1,000 men, which happened in between the lockdown. There were foreigners too in that congregation. The event turned out to be a super spreader event later. So a lot of people on the left had one simple question. If Tablighi Jamaat was wrong, how is the Rath Yatra right? And if Tablighi Jamaat was indeed wrong, the Rath Yatra is wrong too. But they can't be more wrong than that. The leftists themselves were asking this question. For the Tablighi Jamaat gathering and the Rath Yatra, they have a lot of contrast amongst themselves. We look at two factors to understand how the leftists are wrong, completely wrong about the Rath Yatra. Let's first dive into the first factor about how the leadership of these two events conducted themselves. Let's start with the Tablighi Jamaat first. At one point, it was the leader of the Tablighi Jamaat who acted very responsibly. If I look into my notes, there were actually videos and audio tapes that were later discovered about the clerics saying that the coronavirus outbreak would not harm them, for they were protected by thousands and thousands of angels. When the government recommended social distancing, some of those clerics said that this was the government's ploy to create animosity, to create distance amongst Muslim Brotherhood. That's how it worked. There were people who went into hiding, especially the clerics, instead of cooperating with the administration. Now, of course, when it comes to the Tablighi Jamaat incident, one can blame the police. One can blame the Delhi administration because there were lapses there. There were videos where a policeman is requesting clerics to empty the mosque, to go back to their homes. There are also reports that the administration was also not very sure about how the gathering was going on. They couldn't see the fault coming, and this led to the event being classified as a super spreader event. By mid-April alone, in a little more than 20 days, more than 4,000 cases in India could be traced back to the Tablighi Jamaat gathering. 400 of those people died as well. Now compare this with the Rath Yatra. The Puri Rath Yatra, firstly, the state government never gave a go-ahead. There was always a bit of unsurety from the part of the state government. However, on May 7, when finally the chariot construction was expedited by the state government, there was an intent that the Rath Yatra will go on. So all the people, all the priests, all the temple police working towards the fulfillment of the Rath Yatra event, towards the entire ritual, they were looking for directions from the state government against those in the Tablighi Jamaat that were defying the orders of the state government. How are those two the same events? How can they even be compared? There was extensive testing for the leadership of the people involved in the Rath Yatra. Bare minimum number of people were allowed. The heads of the temple who were responsible for conducting the Rath Yatra never took it upon themselves to impose law and order. They went through the Supreme Court, through all the right channels, and eventually sought permission. This is the first point, the way the leadership acted. Now, even if we are to negate the point of the leadership, because that's a few selected people and they are expected to behave in a certain way to cater to the certain interest of people, let's go to the second point, the people involved in these events themselves. Let's start with Tablighi Jamaat. One of the senior editors at Swarajya did a very elaborative report about how the Tablighi Jamaat conducts itself. We'll attach a link for you in the description. This report by Swati Goel Sharma actually elaborated on how the Jamaat, how people in the Jamaat conduct themselves. I'll give you some idea about it. For instance, speaking to one of the members of the Jamaat, Swati discovered that they were using the same utensils to eat. Now, these are 4 and 5 people not using cutlery as anyone would do. They're using their hands to eat rice, to eat the curry, to eat the bread. And the same plate is then used by another 5, 7 people, and it goes on for 6 to 7 batches. So for any one plate, there are 30 to 40 people without the cutlery. Now, even if one of them is carrying the virus, it would spread to another 30, 40 people. And probably that's what happened. This is one example. More than 1,000 men were gathered in that center, and the social distancing went for a toss. Of course, given the proximity everyone was in of each other, the virus spread was obvious. There was also the question of sanitation, the toilets. They were Indian toilets. And Swati also covered in the report how one person had to wait for at least 30 minutes before venturing into an Indian style toilet. So the hygiene also went for a toss, further contributing to the spread of the virus. These are just some of the instances. Now, if you come back to the Rath Yatra, what happened to the Rath Yatra? The administration. Now, Rath Yatra every year sees 10 to 12 lakh people. They assemble. It's a rare event. It's something very spiritual. It's something which attracts people from across the country and possibly from the world. But this time, given the wake of the coronavirus, things were rightfully different. There was a curfew starting Monday 9 p.m. until Wednesday 2 p.m. There were bare minimum number of chariot pullers, almost 500. All of them were tested before they could take part in the ritual. The temple police actually quarantined themselves for a month so that they could enable the ritual to go on smoothly without ensuring that not just any one case could lead to a community transmission. This was the kind of efforts that were put in. Now compare these with the efforts that were seen in the Jamaat. How are they even comparable? So when leftists say that if the Tablighi Jamaat gathering was wrong and so is the Rath Yatra, are they right? Now these are 2 points to ponder. Now let's come back to a third point. When the Tablighi Jamaat members, when this entire when this entire gathering was discovered, the police sprung into action. Members were traced on, but all of these members of the Tablighi Jamaat traveled to across the country. They were in every state almost. Most coming from West Bengal, which actually led to a very brief lid on the numbers. So for 2 or 3 days, we had no numbers coming out of Bengal. Some of these members who were then put into quarantine centers also misbehaved with the frontline workers. One can simply look up online reports of these members stripping in front of nurses, taking a dump in the hospital corridors, and things like that. Have we seen any such activity coming from the members who are taking part in the Rath Yatra today? No, we haven't. People what tend to make this issue about Hindus and Muslims and how some religion is treated or how some other religion is treated. And this is what the leftists want you to believe. They want to make you believe that one event is a victim and the other is a villain. It's not. If both events are important, as they must be for their respective members, the channels are important. Taking the law and order into consideration is important. Seeking rightful permissions from the administration is important. The people conducting the Rath Yatra did that. The priests conducting the Rath Yatra did that, even though they were in for a lot of disappointments early on. The Tablighi Jamaat instead resisted. They resisted the actions of the police, of the frontline workers, made points that saying that using a sanitizer was against their religion. Now, the leftists may want to make a victim out of the Tablighi Jamaat's, gathering. But doing that, they will only harm the very people who gathered there and the people who came into contact of those clerics, of those members later on. This isn't about making one event a victim and another a villain. This is about saying that all religious events, irrespective of their religion, be it a Hindu event, be it a Muslim event, be it a Rath Yatra, be it a Tablighi Jamaat gathering, they all need to be viewed from the same filter. They all need to go through the same administrative channels for them to be conducted smoothly. These are unusual times, and the leftists can do one favor to the government, to the people of India, and to their followers by not making outrageous statements like these. Because by doing so, they put into danger the lives of people, the very same people they back to save. They claim they're saving from the atrocities of the government and so on. The leftists are clearly wrong about the Rath Yatra, and they couldn't be any more wrong. Thank you.